Okay, so we got carried away wintertime dreaming. Okay, so I got carried away this winter looking at garden catalogs and ordered a pear tree and a Kerr apple tree. And now we're trying to find places for them, because the places that when I convinced my wife that we had space for these trees in the winter, now that it's the summer, we're thinking, not the best location. But we have found a couple of good spots, and what I wanted to convey with this video is the design considerations that we took in mind when choosing the spots for these plants. So what we ended up choosing was, we're going to put the pear tree is going to go in here, okay? And the factors that we considered were, of course, that the amount of sun it's going to get here, but also the shade that it's going to create once it's mature tree. In 20-25 years, once this pear tree has its full canopy on it, how tall is it going to get? So what's overhead? And also, where is the shade going to fall in the summertime when it has leaves on it? And so basically, we're going to use the pear tree as a way of shading the south-facing front window in the summertime. So you can see the window there, and so then the tree will actually be creating shade that will incorporate the window underneath of it, and that'll save us on air conditioning and make the house more comfortable. But then we also have to consider with the driveway over here, where the snow is going to get thrown in the winter, because while the tree is small, we don't want to be throwing huge shovelfuls of snow on top of it and snapping branches or possibly even wrecking the trunk. We used to have a Nanking cherry bush here, and the branches would get broken when large wet heavy snow would get thrown on there. And so we're putting it far enough back that we're not going to be throwing the snow onto it, but close enough to the house that it's going to be shading it, and yet at the same time we're not disturbing the existing perennials too much, and we're not changing the conditions in terms of sun and shade for the existing perennials too much, that the well-established system, which is now in its 14th year, isn't going to be ruined once the tree is mature. And so then the second place that we found to put in the other tree, we're getting a Kerr apple tree, which is a very interesting tree. It's a mix between a sweet regular apple and a crab apple, and they hold their apples in high winds. They hold their apples into the winter, and so any apples that don't get eaten by us will get eaten by the birds in the winter time, or they tend to just turn to mush and even dry on the tree themselves and drop off at some later point. So they don't create a hassle like that if there's very high up apples that you can't access. So we're going to put it here in this shade bed, and the advantage there will be that once this ash tree here on the boulevard is more or less inevitably killed by the emerald ash borer that's moved into the province now. So once that tree is dead, then this tree, which is now going to be here, the Kerr apple tree, will be providing additional shade in some of the same areas that the ash tree is right now. So then this shade bed won't be scorched by the sun when that ash tree comes down, that the Kerr apple tree will come in and provide some of that same shade that the ash tree is currently providing. And for now, the Kerr apple tree won't be getting as much sun as it would like, but that's fine. It can spend its time putting down a good root system and growing very slowly over the coming years. And we've done this in a number of other places in the yard, where we've planted trees in suboptimal amounts of sun, and they just took much longer to get established, but by the time they did get established, they were still very happy, productive, resilient, and healthy. And so those are just a few of the design considerations that one might take in mind when choosing where to put in a plant tree or a fruit tree. And it's worth mentioning as well that we decided to go with bare root fruit trees. And the advantage with that, even though this looks much less impressive than a tree that's more established in a larger pot, with a bare root tree, the plant didn't grow in a pot. It grew in the ground and then was taken out. So it's actually much better in the long run to go with a bare root tree, and it's much cheaper. So there's less to transport as well. All of the soil and the big pots doesn't need to be transported. So it saves on energy costs that way as well. So the bare root trees are cheaper. You'll have a healthier tree in the long run. And the reason for that is that when they grow in the pot, they get all root bound, and the taproot doesn't get as well established, and they're sort of used to being in a pot, not used to being in the ground. So then oftentimes the tree will look very healthy at first when you buy it from the nursery, but it'll fail to thrive. So if you can, it's better to get the bare root tree, not only financially, but in the long run for the health of your tree. Okay, so here I've got the hole dug. It's always a pleasure to see how good our soil is. These are all sarsaparilla roots. Beautiful native plant. I've got a whole pocket full of them actually, just from the little hole there. So that's just some of it. So that's all good medicinal tea. And I'm going to be adding a few of these zebra mussel shells to the hole, just as some long-term minerals for the tree. So we harvested these at the beach. They're a pain in the butt for everybody trying to walk on the sand. So we just took a 5-gallon pail when we went to the beach and snagged a bunch of them. And the garden will be quite happy with that. So it's pretty neat to look at the soil profile. We got the fresher wood chips, the mostly broken down wood chips. There's some biochar I came across here too, that we've also created to add to the soil. And then we get down to that root layer. And honestly, we have created so much soil, it's become a problem by just mulching and adding, or simply by mulching and allowing the leaves to drop and rot every year. Just think of all those yard waste bags that people stack by their driveway throughout the spring, summer, and fall. Imagine if all of that just stayed. You just build soil. So this is going to be the new home for a little Kerr apple tree here. Okay, so one more thing I thought to discuss here is actually why did we choose these specific varieties of these fruit trees? Yes, we chose a pear and an apple, but we chose the Russian beauty pear and the Kerr apple, Kerr. So we already have a pear tree in the backyard, but that pear tree ripens in mid-September, whereas this pear tree is going to ripen in late August. So what we're doing there is we're basically shingling our food supply. You know, the way that the shingles work, right, is first the first one, and then the next one overlaps it enough, right? And then the next one overlaps it enough. And so that's basically what you want to do if you can with your food is we don't want two pear trees coming to ripen at the same time, because then it's going to be such a load of work that we have to do all at once. Plus your period of time that you're going to be eating fresh fruit is going to be smaller, but this way we can stretch out how much fresh fruit we have available, and we'll also be buffering our workload. And so it's the same thing with the Kerr apple tree, that it's going to be much later in the season. It's those apples are best when the frost has already hit them, and they get very sweet, and they're very hardy to the cold, the extreme cold. So you'll harvest them very late in the season. So that's one reason why we chose them. Plus, they are the premier juice apple, and so they're actually highly valued. That there is local cider breweries that'll pay you, I think it's like $2 a pound.
I don't remember.
Something like that. Something like $2.
It's that much.
No? Oh, anyways, they'll pay a higher premium price for the apples. And if you want to see the hole here again, here's some more biochar, the world's best soil amendment. Breaking that up there. It's beautiful, beautiful stuff. There's
found a 2-liter bag for sale yesterday for $10.
Yeah, 2 liters for $10. So definitely something worth making yourself. Lots of worms in here. And again, you can see the soil profile. I never get tired of this, but of the fresh chips to the breaking down chips to the soil. And remember that 14 years ago, this was all a compacted lawn with perhaps ½ inch or 1 inch of actual soil with organic matter and roots in it on top of typical Manitoba gumbo clay. So you can see how much soil has been built here